Welcome back to another Learn About Xero video. In today's video, I'll show you how to customize your invoices so you can add your own branding. Adding logos, QR codes, different fonts and different colors can really help you stand out from the crowd. There are two ways to customize invoices in Xero. The first method is to use a standard theme. This is an easy way to tailor your invoices, although the options for customization are a little limited. The second method is to use a DOCX theme. This requires a bit more effort but gives you far more options for customization. So let's take a look. To create a new invoice theme, go to Invoice Settings. So click your organization name and Settings, and Invoice Settings. So here in the demo company, we've already got a few different branding themes set up. We're going to create a couple more today. So the first one is a standard theme. And you can create as many different standard themes as you like. Now give the branding theme a name. Let's call this Learn About Xero Standard so we can recognize it. Choose the page size, the margin sizes, and then we've got fonts. I'm going to change the font. Let's go with Calibri and make it font size 10. Then you can choose the names of invoices, credit notes, statements. I'm happy just to leave this as invoice. We've got some drop downs so you can show or hide various bits of information. Now, because my business is service based, I don't need to show a unit price and quantity. So that's handy if you sell a number of things, a number of units of things, but I can hide that. I don't need a payment advice cutaway. That's useful if you want your customers to send you checks, but I'll hide that. I do want to show a logo. I'm not so bothered about the discount, so I'll hide that column. And then we've got a couple of drop downs. If you've added any payment services, make sure you add that payment service to this new branding theme. So I do have a couple of PayPal services set up. Let's add one of those to this branding theme. Add any terms and payment information. And then up at the top right, you can align your logo differently. You can show taxes as exclusive or inclusive by default, and you can change your details. So let's just change it from Demo Company to Learn About Xero. And save. So that's our new branding theme created. You can see the message at the top. The LAX standard theme has been saved. By default, it puts that new theme at the bottom of this list. Let's add a logo. I think for this one I'll use my darker logo here. And you can do a quick preview just to see or get a feel of what that looks like. So this is looking pretty good. You can see we've got our logo in the top right. The font looks a little bit different. We don't have that unit price and quantity. But I think it's useful to preview it for a real invoice. So let's open up an invoice that we're going to be using today. In a new tab, I'll open up my invoices. And this is the invoice at the top that we're going to be using to preview all our invoices today, this one to Bayside Club. Now notice that currently we're using the standard branding theme. So that's the default one in the demo company. Let's take a look at that first. Let's preview this one just to remind ourselves what that standard demo company branding theme looked like. We've got the demo company logo. We've got a particular font. We've got that quantity and unit price showing as well. So that's fine, but I want to preview my new branding theme. So let's edit this invoice. Click the three dots on the right and edit. And we'll choose a different branding theme. and update. And let's preview that. So here's our new branding theme. We've got the logo. We don't have a unit price and quantity. We've got the font that we were looking for, and we've still got that payment service information and links where they can pay online. So that looks really nice. A nice simple way to create a professional looking invoice. But if you want to do a lot more customization with your invoices, then use a DOCX theme, and that's what we're going to look at next. So let's go back into Xero and create a new custom DOCX theme. So here on Invoice Settings, click New Branding Theme, and this time Custom DOCX. And you can create up to 15 different DOCX themes. So give this a title, we'll call it LAX. And again, that theme has been created and it's at the bottom of our list. Click Download to download a zip file containing all the DOCX templates. And let's open up my downloads folder. So here's my downloads folder. Let's double click to open that. And we've got templates for credit notes, invoices, purchase orders, quotes, and statements. I'm just going to be working on a DOCX file for my invoices. Let's open that. And before we start any editing, let's just take a few moments just to familiarize ourselves with what we see here, because it does look a little bit overwhelming, but really there are just three things that we need to concern ourselves with. There are text, or bits of text. So invoice date, account number, description, quantity, these are all just pieces of text. Whatever you see here on the DOCX file will be what you see when you preview the invoice. We've got fields or merge fields. So everything in these triangular brackets are fields. This is pulling information from Xero. So for example, invoice date, that will pull whatever the date is on the invoice in Xero. Now what we see here is just the top layer. To see the underlying merge fields, if you use a Mac, click Option Function F9 or Alt F9 on a PC to see the underlying merge fields. This is the structure of this template. So you can see here, invoice date, there's the merge field. Looks a little bit more complicated, but you've got the name invoice date there. And again, Alt F9 or Function Option F9 to toggle back, and you just see the names of the fields. If you just want to see one merge field, click the merge field, right click, and toggle field codes. And then you can see the merge field just for one of them. Makes it a bit easier to look at the screen. Right click and toggle field codes to go back just to see the name. So those are fields. We'll be looking at fields soon. And we've also got tables. So tables help you organize information on your screen. Helps you align things, get correct spaces. We've got three tables on here. So the first table is the information at the top. And we've got a table near the middle. And there's a table at the bottom where the payment advice is. So let's start doing a little bit of simple editing. The first thing I'm going to do is just change my font. So highlight everything, Command A or Control A, and select whatever font and font size you want. Here we'll go with Xero Pro. Then add any text or remove any text that you want. So for example, I don't want organization tax display name. I don't want account number. We can remove that text, account number. And then we've got a merge field we need to remove. To remove or edit merge fields, it's always best removing the underlying merge field. So right click to toggle field codes and delete that. And I want to remove organization tax display name as well. These are both merge fields. So again, toggle field codes and delete them. You can also add additional merge fields. So if there's information that you want to appear automatically on your invoice, and that information isn't here, the Xero Help Center has a list of all merge fields that you can add. So if you are adding a merge field, just make sure you enter the merge field exactly as it appears here on the Xero Help Center. So notice any capital letters, any spacing. So here this is all one word. I'm going to add contact email address. So when I add this into my DOCX file, I'm going to type it exactly as it appears here. Now there are two ways to add merge fields. I'm just going to show you the easy way. We're going to copy a merge field. So here I'll copy contact tax number. Control C or Command C to copy. And Control V, Command C to paste. So now we've got two contact tax numbers in here. Let's toggle the field codes. And I'm going to change this so it's the name of the merge field that we saw on that Xero Help Center page. So remember, type it in exactly as it appears in Xero. And let's toggle the field codes. And it still says contact number. That's the name of the field. Let's update the field. Right click to update the field. And it now says contact email address. So that looks good. So we've made a couple of very simple changes. Let's save what we've done and preview what we've done so far in Xero. We haven't done very much. We will come back to this. But for now, let's save this as version 1. So I'll call this LAX V1. Then let's return to Xero and upload. We're going to upload in our invoice area version 1. And let's preview that for an invoice. So here's our invoice. So currently it's using the standard branding theme. Let's refresh my page. So F5 or Command R to refresh. Let's click these three dots to edit and choose a different branding theme. And now we can choose that LAX custom theme that we've just created. And update. And let's preview. So we haven't done a lot yet. All we've done is change the font size. We've removed a couple of bits of information. That's about all we've done. Notice we do have that contact email address. It appears. So that's worked. Let's go back to that docx file and make some more changes. Let's work with one of these tables. Now, when you're working with a table, it can be really useful to show the grid lines. It's a lot easier to work with tables and see what you're doing. So let's right-click, Borders and Shading, and show a grid. And now we can see how this table is structured. Now, whenever you're working with tables, if you're adding new fields or removing fields, that's fine. Just make sure you don't remove any table start and table end fields. These are really important on any table. So if you see those fields, leave them exactly as they are. Otherwise, your table will be a real mess. But I don't need quantity and unit price. We've already established that. I can remove those words. Very simple. And now I can remove these merge fields. Right click, toggle field codes, and delete them. Now, if I preview this invoice, that description information will all be squashed into one column. And I want to give it a bit more room to breathe, so let's merge the cells. And left align. And let's show the grid line on the table at the top as well. I'm going to add a new row to this table. So let's insert a row near the top. And let's delete that second row. So that second row had a sort of field where you can upload a logo. And I'm not just going to use that. It can cause a few issues. For me, it's a lot simpler just to remove that and replace it with a separate row. So I've got a separate row here. Let's just make that row a little bit wider so it's a bit easier to work with. And I'm just going to drag and drop a logo into here. Again, let's go with this darker logo. Now, if I preview the invoice, up here it will say invoice. So that's just pulling that invoice title from Xero. I'd like to replace that with an image. So I'll remove this merge field. And replace it with something that looks a little bit nicer. And perhaps I will wrap text and show that in front of the text. That allows me to drag it where I want it. Let's move it up here. And let's preview what we've got so far. So again, I'm going to save this, and notice I've still got my grid lines showing. I just want to preview what the logo and that word invoice looks like. So let's save this as a version 2. Again, let's upload that into Xero. And let's preview that invoice. All we need to do is refresh the page and preview, because notice the branding theme LAX is already selected. Now this is going to look pretty ugly. We've still got the grid line showing on our tables, but you can see we've got our logo, we've got the word invoice or the image instead of just the word. So I think that's starting to take shape now. But there's still a few things I want to do. I want to remove those grid lines, of course. I want to remove that payment advice at the bottom. I'd like to add a QR code, and I'd like to add a bit more color and a bit more design work onto this invoice. So let's go back into the invoice or into the DOCX file one more time and make a few changes. Let's remove that payment advice. So this is in a footer. Let's just highlight that table and delete the table. So now all I've got showing in the footer is my registered office information, so I'm happy with that. And let's close that header and footer. I'd like to add a bit of a shape to give this a bit more of a stylish design, hopefully. So let's insert a shape. And choose a shape. We'll go with one with a bit of curvature in it. Let's move this up to the top and move it around. Maybe make it a bit wider. Something like this. We'll change the color. And I'll move it behind the invoice image. So right click and send to back. I think that looks quite nice, hopefully. Let me know if you agree. Let's remove the grid lines from this table. So borders and shading. Make sure that's set to none. For this middle table, I think we'll add a bit of color to it. So I'll highlight the table, borders and shading. Let's fill it in with a bit of color. And let's add a border to that table. Now I'll get rid of the grid lines, but we'll add a border around the table. Maybe make this a little bit thicker. Something like that. And I like to add another image to this document. So I'm going to add a QR code. This could be a way for your customers to pay you, or it could be just something you want to promote, some special offers on a website. Let's drag and drop a QR code onto this document. This is a QR code for my Buy Me a Coffee page. Let's again put this in front of the text, so wrap text. We'll move this over here. And I'm going to do one more thing before we save this latest version. I want to change the background color. So we've got a nice white color, and that might be what you go for. Let's click the Design tab and Page Color. Here's where you can change the page color. So I could go with a different color here. That might look nice. If you're using Word on a PC, when you select page color, you'll have some options for changing the gradient as well, or adding a gradient. And I'd really like to add a gradient to give it a bit more visual interest. But on a Mac, I can't add a gradient using this page color option. So I'm going to show you a workaround if you are using a Mac. So let's get rid of that page color. And instead, I'm going to insert a shape into the header. So click into the header, let's insert a shape. I'll insert a big square shape. And I'm going to make that the size of the invoice. So let's just drag the edges. And choose what color we want this background. Now I'm going to go with a simple white color, but I'm going to use a gradient. So let's choose one of these. Play around until you're happy with what it looks like. And I think we'll come out of that header now. Click header and close header and footer. I'm going to make this, just drag this up a little bit higher. And let's save this and take a look. Oh, I did want a border around that table in the middle. So let's just... Oh, I selected page border earlier, which is why you see the border around the page. That can look quite nice. I will get rid of that page border. I do want a table border. So let's click Table Properties, Borders and Shading, and we'll just have a border on this table. Okay, that looks more what I wanted. And let's save this now. I'll save this as version 3. Now it can be useful when you're going back and forth and doing more design work onto your DOCX templates to create different versions. So if I upload version 3 and I get an error message when I upload it in Xero, I've always got version 2 to fall back on, and I can continue from there. So let's go back into Xero here one more time. We'll upload that latest version, version 3. and we'll preview that. So again, back on the invoice, all we need to do is refresh the page and click preview. So here's our latest invoice. You can spend a lot more time, make it look even nicer. I'm pretty happy with this. It's an invoice I think I can use for some of my customers to promote some of my latest offers. We'll run with this one. But I've noticed it doesn't have any payment services added. I do have a PayPal payment service, and I'd like that to show here so my customers can click on the link and pay via PayPal. So a couple of things that I need to do. Let's return to invoice settings. First of all, if I want to use this branding theme for all new invoices that I create, drag it to the top of the list. So hover to the left here and drag it. So whatever order these invoice branding themes are the order that you'll see inside Xero. So I'll make this second in the list because I might use that one more often than, say, the standard theme. But by default, the LAX invoice branding theme at the top is the default branding theme for new invoices. But I want to make sure my payment services are added to it. So click Payment Services. And you can see on the Manage Payment Methods tab, I've got 2 payment services set up for PayPal. Click Manage Connected Service and Manage Themes. Here I can see all my branding themes that I've set up and which payment service they're using. So for my new LAX theme, I'm going to make sure I've added my payment service for PayPal. And now, whenever I create a new invoice, you'll see the default branding theme is LAX. So that's great because it's at the top of the list. Let's just have one final preview of invoice 31. And we can see it's now got our payment services on the invoice. So I'd love to hear how you've been customizing your invoices, what you've been able to achieve inside Xero. So let me know in the comments. Hopefully this video was useful, and check out the full invoicing playlist to learn more about invoicing in Xero. Thanks very much.